One thing about John, John had a problem with doing some kind of big stunt, and he had told me he had never punched a guy in his real life, and he didn't like violence, He told us that he had one bad experience in one of his movies, and he had been punched by a guy and punched on his nose and broke his nose, so he had so much concern about action. So while we were shooting the scene, we need him, to jump up and fire, and also there's a lot of, bullet hit, blow around him. So I was a little worried about what if he refused to do it, then we couldn't make a scene, So, and then I have talked to my AD, to better not let him know what kind of thing is going to be going on, Just have him dive and shoot, and didn't let him know there's a lot of bullet hit, and explosive stuff around him, Let's just get a shot first. That's cheating him a little bit. My AD, Arthur Anderson, was a great man. He had a great sense of humor, and he know how to work with the actors, And while John did the shot when he jumped up and fired, and then all of a sudden we blow everything. He was shocked. But he was such a great actor, even though he was shocked. But he still, did the whole thing, and then jumped out and shooting and being tough, look tough, So after they shot, John told me, John, why you didn't tell me about this? I said, oh, well, I must say that you look so very heroic in that movie. So, and then he was so happy, and he turned to smile. Really? I said, really? So I let him look at the tape, and it was, he was so fine with his great performance. So, well, John's just like that, After the shot, he had no afraid of doing all kind of action, and he did, all the action almost by himself.
It's a good strategy.
Yeah. Don't tell them till it's over.
Yeah. I'm about to unleash the biblical plague LA deserves.
One of the things, John, that we remember from this sequence was how many times we had to write how to get Nick Cage in a coma. We wrote like 10 different versions for you, and it was like, no, it's not good enough, it's not right, and then I guess you liked the one with the engine turbine.
Initially, Nick Cage falls out of the air traffic control tower and is in a coma, but that offered too many broken bones, apparently. There's another scene where there's some storage tanks and he's cryo-frozen. We kept sending these rewritten scenes back over to John's office from our office, and they just kept coming back.
Here comes Nick's song.
Yeah, Nick improvised this song, which at first we were, a little unsure about, and then when we saw it in the movie, we were like, this is really great.
One of the happy things was I have totally creative freedom when I shot the movie. I was so surprised that for a studio, they have never given me any notes or any advice, They just let me to make my own movies. And especially Shirley Lansing, the chairman of Paramount Picture. She only said one thing to everybody, and he also said to me. And she said, all I want is a John Woo's movie. It was really rare because usually the studio would like to give a lot of notes to every filmmaker. So that's why I could make the film is totally like my Hong Kong style, like the way John and Nick are using two guns, and the Mexican standoff, that kind of thing, and I feel free to do whatever I want. It's unlike I was, working on the other film. The other film, like when I was working with the second unit director, and the second unit director had never liked slow motion. They have never shot any slow motion shot for me. He said, John, this is not my style. I said, I want you to do my style. I need my style, not your style. So that's why I haven't worked with that guy again,
What's to be now?
Here's the introduction of Dominique Swain. Not exactly the type of person Sean Archer's character would want to be raising. But then again, it's his fault since he's been distanced from the family for 6 years at this point.
The family troubles, again, are there to justify the fact that he has to bring this obsession to an end. So that's the real structural purpose of them. Originally in the script, until very late, until we started shooting, Jamie had been arrested at this point for stealing a police car from a car wash. And she sort of was very proud of that. And Archer gets her to
He gets her
to beat the rap
out of trouble.
And later on, and he thinks it's terrible and pathetic. And then later on, when he's on the run as Nicolas Cage, he steals a police car in exactly the same manner. But that, since it was cut out of here, it was cut out of later.
You know, part of what I think makes this movie so wonderful is the relationship, the stakes.
Yeah.
This was the first scene in the FBI office, which will be mimicked later when Castor Troy, the bad guy, is in Travolta's body. It was always sort of set up this way, in which he comes back in sort of joyless after his big success in capturing his arch nemesis. And here comes the toast. There was always a bottle of champagne sent by the CIA.
Sir, the CIA sent this over.
And he rejects it. But then John had the idea, based on a ritual of Vietnam vets who would toast their fallen comrades on Veterans Day.
So the point of the scene became, instead of the regional FBI office toasting Sean Archer's great victory in finally capturing Castor Troy, it becomes a toast to the people who died during that capture, which was important to John that it say something about his character. And later on, the scene is replayed from the point of view of the bad guy. And he, being the bad guy, soaks up the applause. That's what matters to him, that he get credit for something.
Yeah, and that's my kind of character, and that's the kind of character I believe. You know, I always believe, you know, the good guy is not 100% good, you know, the bad guy is not 100% bad. You know, that everyone have two faces. Everyone at both sides, you know. That's, I think, to make the character more interesting and more real. You know, so that's why I came up with that idea. And also, this is my usual character. So in all of my Hong Kong film, and even though in Broken Arrow and this one, you know, they are the same. So that's why I love the script. I love you guys created these two great characters. You know.
What I do remember, John was always talking about the fact that within, you know, every hero is some shading of evil, and in every antagonist there's some good.
I mean, the funny thing is that when I first time came to Hollywood, you know, when I made my first Hollywood movie, Hard Target, you know, and I've been told that there's so many rules for the American hero, you know. For the American hero, they couldn't be too emotional. And for the American hero, they have never cried on the screen. You know, when they shoot, they only use one bullet. You know, and never shot a guy in his back. You know, when they shoot a guy, he had to make a good reason. You know, you have to design that guy had to pick up the gun or pick up some kind of weapon, and then he shoot him. You know, and he got to be very, very straight and very clean and sort of stuff. I said, oh, you know, I'm not good at to make that kind of hero. You know, because I like to make a real hero, a hero with true emotion. So that's why I was so happy to have this script, you know.
What John says is true. I mean, they're always, in the studios, executives are always trying to tell you, oh, make the hero more sympathetic or to make him perfect. And John was like, well, that's not human. That doesn't make him a human being. That just makes him a movie character. And that's not what John does.
I could put an agent in a cell.
So here is CCH Pounder, who is working with a black ops unit of the FBI, and she has an agenda. She's going to be stepping Sean Archer through that agenda in order to find that bomb. One of the things we wanted to talk about was actually the bomb, which we were laughing at because it's got the longest lag time probably in movie history.
The longest ticker of all time is like a week.
You know, just long enough to keep the plot going. Kevin Yeager and his special effects crew really boned me on this. I walked onto the set. We shot this on the Paramount soundstage, and I thought Nick Cage was asleep on the table, and I stumbled in. The lights were dark. His chest was moving up and down, and I thought he was meditating or taking a nap. And little did I know, Kevin Yeager and his guys were using the air bladders and fucking with me.
I have no idea what you're talking about.
Let me try.
Another great character actor, Colm Feore, fortunate enough to get him to play Dr. Walsh of the Walsh Institute here. It's very important, again, for you screenwriters out there, to have a step into the impossible. And that's what this step is.
However, this was initially inspired by, again, something we caught on TV of where some lab was growing human ears on the back of mice.
I think it's only one special effect moment in the entire movie. So like
the laser beams,
the laser beams, the ear, and cutting the faces. And actually, we just use a good dummy, a good dummy, to fake, cutting, and then they put on some CG, the laser, the kind of stuff. It was very simple to make.
Of course, the surgery sequence is what Michael and I were most worried about, how that was going to really work. I mean, it had to be visual, emotional, and, the audience, if they don't accept this scene, the movie doesn't work. But John shot it very minimally. It was not done in any kind of graphic way, and it was done, with just sort of implication instead of just sort of violent, grotesque visuals. He did it very subtly, and it really worked.
Now, John, I know you would never say so at the time in the production, but did you ever have a moment when you felt like this was crazy and it was never going to work, the whole idea of face swapping? Did you ever have doubt?
No, I have never had any doubt, because I believe it could happen in the near future,
And now it can.
So now it can.
If you can't, the bomb will blow, and Castor Troy will win.
The setup for the second act of this movie, meeting everyone in the course of this obsessive pursuit of this bomb. And again, it's to set up the fact that here he's being a total hard ass to Gina Gershon, and when he becomes Nicolas Cage, when he becomes Castor Troy, Nicolas Cage's face, he has a totally different relationship with her. It helps him grow.
On probation for harboring Castor Troy. One phone call.
I used to talk about Gina, John. How you cast her?
I like Gina, because I like the movie
Bound.
Yeah. I really love her performance, and I feel she's very attractive and a good actress. It was great to working with her and also have her to play the role. She made the role so more of a sexy and tragic, kind of thing.
And believable as a mother.
This reeks of you. It's got your signature all over it.
Now, this guy, you didn't know he was going to be bald, is that right? Or did you ask him to shave his head?
And I couldn't believe it. I could work with John Cassavetes' son, Nick. I was totally surprised, because we have so much admire about John Cassavetes. We learn from his movie, and we love his film. He was one of my idol figure, when I was young. I've seen a lot of his movie, and he was so famous in Hong Kong. When we were studying film, we always looking at his film. And then when we work with his son Nick, it's such a he's very funny and very tall, and he also was a great writer and loved his script. So while we were on the set, we have talked all about movies. So I have a great time working with him. And, came up with some good lines and good.
He really ran with that character. There wasn't a lot in the script for that character.
Yeah, and he looked very strong in the movie too.
Yeah, that character was a little thin in the script, but he brought a lot of presence to it.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys worked on it, that character.
He had a lot more physicality in the movie than he had in the script. He was a lot more dangerous in the movie than in the script.
But when you met him, did he have hair, or had he already shaved bald?
He already shaved bald.
Oh, and do you like that idea, right?
I like that idea.
Yeah.
No,